Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tim Crompton, Director of Athletics here at Weber State. The last instructions I received when I left the house was, don't talk very long, because nobody wants to hear from you. But I do need to say a few things, recognize a few people, thank a few people, and kind of push this evening off the shore, so to speak. First thing is I'd like to recognize our president, good entry, Dr. Brad Larsen and his wife Camille, our Hall of Fame board, and our chair, specifically Kurt Breitweiser, the Hall of Fame board, and any and all of our current members of the Hall of Fame. If you guys could just stand up, I'll give you a little round of applause. Megan, that includes you, yes. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I mean, of all the things that we do in athletics through the course of the year, this event is certainly is special, because it's an event where we have everyone in a room that is all about Weber State, and that's pretty exciting. Now, I need to make sure that I give a special thanks to some individuals who generally don't get enough credit or any credit at all. We'll first start with Carrie Thompson, our Associate Director of the Wildcat Club, and Paul Grua, which you'll get to know a little bit tonight if you don't already know him, our Director of Public Relations and Media, and of course Alan Farron and his team. He's somewhere behind the scenes as usual, and without him, he brings a lot of these memories back to life for our inductees and their families. So thank you for the time you put into it. All right, well, with that being said, let me be the first to officially welcome and congratulate this year's Hall of Fame class and welcome you into our Weber State Athletics Hall of Fame. It's an honor and a privilege to be here and to be able to share with your family and your friends and everyone here, just have the opportunity to honor you. And other than that, welcome. We'll look forward to hearing from Paul. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Please feel free to continue eating and finish up your food, and we'll go ahead and get started. We're excited for this special night. As Tim Crompton introduced us earlier and welcomed you all, I'm Paul Grua, Director of Athletic Communications, and it's my pleasure to be here tonight for the special event. One of my favorite parts of my job is being involved with the great Wildcat history that we have at Weber State, and hearing and being a part of this Hall of Fame ceremony each year. And I know he had a chance to have those that are in the Hall of Fame already stand up. We have 142 members of the Hall of Fame that are in the Hall of Fame, and as well as a couple of teams. And tonight we're going to induct 5 new ones, so we're pretty excited about that. We also wanted to mention that we have a new Hall of Fame at the D-Event Center, and if you get a chance, please go by and see it. The plaques are the same, but they've been moved to a different area. It's in the south concourse of the D-Event Center, and so it'll be kind of on both walls. As it grows and expands, we'll have room for both on the wall. So you 5 inductees will be on the Hall of Fame there soon with your plaques, and you'll be up there forever. Again, and Tim mentioned it, thanks to the Hall of Fame committee and those that have helped for this. So we're excited tonight to introduce this new class, the 2022 class. We have it's a tremendous class from a wide variety of places. We have a runner from Wyoming. We have a runner from Mexico. We have a tennis player from South Africa, a soccer player from Washington, and a longtime administrator from Utah. So we're excited for this class. They all come together and they have great experiences and memories at Weber State. So let's get started. Our first inductee is Amber Henry. And so Amber, before you come up, let me just give a real quick brief summary of Amber before she speaks, so you can know how great she was. In case you didn't know, there's a rule, and one of the rules for the Hall of Fame is you have to be out of school for 8 years before you can be eligible to be in the Hall of Fame. And this is Amber's 8th year, so she is eligible on her first time getting in, which is pretty cool as well. She was a 3-time All-American and 11-time Big Sky champion, and she was ranked as one of the top 25 athletes in Big Sky Conference history, one of the top female athletes in Big Sky history. And she's also one of the toughest athletes. In case you haven't heard this story before, and she can probably tell it, obviously, and maybe she will, but she broke her, she tripped one time at the finish line, but won the race, right, at the Big Sky Championship event. And then she fractured her collarbone, right, and then put it back into place. Elbow, during the race, put it back in place and went on to win All-American honors. So she's pretty tough, that's for sure. She is a special athlete and very well deserving of this honor. So it's my privilege to introduce the newest member of the Weber State Athletics Hall of Fame, Amber Henry.
So glad there's a podium. I was getting my last minute notes together, but I feel so honored to be up here, and it makes me so happy to see so many familiar faces because it brings me peace. I definitely am not much of a speaker, so I'll just begin this. When I got the call on January 4th from Tim, I was wrestling my 2 little boys, getting ready for the day, just like any other day, and he told me that they wanted to induct me into the Hall of Fame, and I tried to not cry because it just felt like a lifetime ago, even though I guess it's been 8 years, but that does feel like a lifetime. And I do gather strength from all of the memories I've had at Weber State, all my trials, all my triumphs, and it's been from the help of everyone. So I just want you to picture this for a minute. You're out on a fall day at the track, on the field, you're finishing practice, you just had a long day at the office also, and you get your good friend, colleague, and you get in the car and you're gonna make a road trip to Wyoming. You check the weather report first because Wyoming, of course, has no rules for storms coming in, even if it's in September. I actually got married in September and it did storm that day. But that day is perfect and you decide to go. You get off of desolate I-80, you're winding back into a valley, and you come to this old school. You walk in, and you're there to watch a high school girls volleyball game. You've been a coach for many, many years, a track and field coach, but you went to a girls volleyball game 2.5 hours away to watch an individual. After the game, it was a good game, the home team won. You then follow crazy taillights out to middle of nowhere towards the mountains in the dark, and you get to this old ranch house and you go in, and it's way past dinner time, but you're served dinner, and you just take time to talk to the parents of an individual that you are potentially wanting to come to your school. You then get in the car at 10 p.m. at night, maybe even 11, and you know you're not going to get home till 1 a.m. in the morning, but you do it anyways. That's Coach Blaisdell, and that's what makes Weber State great, 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 is those that care about the individuals, their well-being. They're going out there to talk not just to an athlete or the athlete's parents, you're talking to the parents of an individual. So that was my first experience of Weber State, and a very good one. My high school coach, he had gotten a hold of Coach Walker and Coach Blaisdell and told him, you really should look at this girl. But anyways, I'm so grateful for Jim Dozel, my high school coach, and that he was able to get that connection going. So when I finally did make my decision of going to Weber State, my parents were really, really relieved, I think. My parents love me so much. They've always done everything to do the best for me. I think they realized pretty young in my life, sports was a good thing because I'd come home tired and not antagonize the other 3 children. So they supported me in everything I wanted to do, and my dad and mom taught me how to work extremely hard. They taught me how to persevere through trials, how to overcome trials, and again, they were so excited for me to go to Weber State. It wasn't too far away. I'd been offered a few places, and they were nothing near close to Weber State. So that was a good call, and I felt a lot of peace in that decision. So that volleyball game was one of the later ones of the season, which would have been the last time that I played with my sister, she was an all-state setter as well, and she's always been my best friend and here for me. She's actually the one that speaks for me most of the time, so I offered her to come up and speak, but she just said, I'll cheer you on, as she always does. So Cass has always been there. So my first year at Weber State wasn't so great for me. I had a lot of health stuff. I ended up having to get my gallbladder out, stomach issues. We ended up in the ER at Rexburg on our way to Bozeman one snowy night. And again, Coach Blaisdell got the Suburban that the multi-eventers were in and took me to the hospital, and my mom dropped everything and came up, and everything was fine. It was just stomach issues, I guess. And Coach Blaisdell, the next day, we got up to Bozeman. I said, I'm ready to race. And he's like, you're going to do that? And I was like, yep. And he's like, okay, you can do it. Supported me. And I ran a PR, a personal record, in the 800 that day. So whatever, you go through trials in life, and I've found that for sure. But when you have people that believe in you and are there to support you, it's amazing what you can accomplish. During fall training my first year, I remember we would do 100-meter hill sprints at Weber. And so if any of you are familiar with it now, maybe it's changed, I don't know. But the library, the sidewalk would start on the back side of the library. You'd go up toward the math buildings and then up towards Swenson, so 100 Hill, I'm pretty sure. And I was up with the upperclassmen, and they destroyed me rep after rep after rep. Allie Dean and Michaela North, namely. I was really devastated. I wanted to be up there, and I remember going up to Coach's office right after practice, and I said, Coach Blaisdell, I'm better than this. I promise I'm better than this. I can do better than this. And he just looked at me, smiled, and sat down at his desk, and he said, Amber, those two girls have been here for 3+ years. They've worked every single day here, working hard. If you keep working hard, you're going to be up at the front too. And that was really humbling to me. They did their due time, and he was respectful of that, but he still believed in my abilities. So it was just a continual thing. I continually was surrounded by people that believed in me. And I guess Coach Blaisdell believed in me enough, and Coach Pilkington, to start me in cross country the next year. So I went through that first year of just a bunch of up and downs, and that fall, Coach Blaisdell said, well, I think you got some stamina. Maybe go to cross country camp. And so Coach Pilkington, where are you? I like to look at you. Hi, sorry. You're right there. Okay. Well, he invited me to cross country camp. And these were the elite of the elite girls. I mean, you get Taylor Ward, Taylor Thornley. I'll say their maiden names because that's what it was at the time. Taylor Thornley, Sarah Collister, Natalie Hawes, and the list goes on. And these were the girls that would sit at the bleachers at 3 o'clock, and Coach would tell them what to do, and they'd go run lots and lots and lots and lots of miles. So I was petrified to go to cross country camp. We got there that evening, and the next morning was a tempo. So a tempo is, running at a sustained pace. And for a long time, I think it was maybe 2 miles the first time, and it was down the canyon. But we did the warm up to there, and I was really hyperventilating, like I was almost here coming up. And I was like, oh, my top's too tight. And Coach Pilkington was like, put your hands above your head. So I did, and he's like, take deep breaths. And I did. He's like, okay, everyone to the line, let's go. You can do this. Amber, stay with Jenna, I think it was. And I was like, okay. And so there wasn't much time to think, but I knew he believed in me that I could stay with Jenna. And I stayed with Jenna the whole 2 miles. I was so proud of myself. But it was those little things every single day at practice. I was so far behind those top girls every day on the distance runs, but I tried to work hard every single day to be just a little closer to them at the finish. Instead of them being done, miles ahead of me, running back and forth, waiting for me to come in, I got closer and closer each time. So I was not, the top elite athlete. Even coming in, my mile time and 2-mile time, your daughter was clearly crushing those in high school, Waitmans. I don't think you would have even got to Utah State with my mile and 2-mile times. So that, I had a lot of growing to do and believing in myself. And every day I had a coach that believed in me and my abilities. I had parents and a sister and another brother that believed in me. And I'd call them, whatever it was, they'd always talk me through it. I love sharing stories, clearly. That's kind of how I remember things. We were at Roy Griak in Minnesota. I just like to show the character of who I've been around, and that's why I've been able to do the things. But we were at Roy Griak, which is a really cool course. It had rolling hills, some trees. The starting line was massive. I mean, seemed longer than this room. And I think it was the first time I remember being in such a large cross-country race. I began to really like cross-country, but that day I was extremely nervous, stomach, I don't know if I can do that. And Coach saw that in the huddle, Coach Pilkington. I think he saw it, and he's like, Amber, come here. And he pulled me back, and he said, what's wrong, are you okay? I was like, I'm nervous, I don't know if I can do this. And he said, who are you? Looked me in the eyes, who are you? I don't know, I run. He's like, you're Amber. I was like, okay, yeah, Amber. You're Amber Henry. You can do this. Line up, let's do this. And that was one of the, I think, first cross-country meets I placed top 3. And it was because someone was believing in me every step of the way. And I started to really trust that process. If Coach said I could run a pace or a time or stay with Taylor and Sarah, I was doing it. I could do it. And it just was time after time. And I can't say that enough, how much believing in me has led to this. Now, just a couple, without its, they definitely had trials in having me as an athlete, I think. I explained some of them. Well, finally, I know Paul talked about my injuries. That was 2012. I didn't quite trip. I actually dove at the finish line to get that, and I was okay with that broken collarbone because I did win. But it did actually help me with my form for steeple. We decided that week in between, but then my knee went out, and that was a huge trial, but I was able to finish at regionals and make it to nationals through phone calls from my dad just telling me, you're where you're supposed to be. You're where you're supposed to be. And I miraculously was able to get through that meet. So I'm going to fast forward to the good times because that was a really hard year. But I got back to nationals, and I knew I was where I needed to be. I felt great. I felt good. I remember getting out of the Suburban with Coach after going through hours of traffic. And it felt like hours, but it was probably, I don't know. He could probably tell you. we get into the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is how Brett Hills felt, just like calm, cool, collected. And I pictured Brett Hills with his singlet on his backpack, his jersey. And I was like, oh, no. Coach, I forgot my jersey at the hotel. And he was like, or I said, I forgot my jersey. He's like, in the car? And I was like, at the hotel? And he's like, okay. You know where to warm up, I'll be back. And I think I probably still owe you for that speeding or ticket or traffic violation that you had to do. So, I mean, I was kind of a pain in the butt, and I didn't ever mean to be, but they continued to love me and support me through it all. And I couldn't have done it without my teammates day in and day out. Actually, that's not the end of the Jersey story. So then that was 2013, summer. I got married in September, and we had a conference. It was my first race of cross country that year up at Bozeman, and I had been injured, so that was going to be my first race of the season. And I was kind of frazzled. We get on the bus and start going, and we're almost at Bozeman, I'm sure. And I called Jed because I forgot my jersey. And I was like, where are you? He's like, oh, we're just about to get on the interstate. Him and his mom were going to come up to Bozeman and watch. And I was like, my jersey's up at Weber State in my locker. My coat is this. And they went up there and got my jersey and brought it all the way to Bozeman. They were planning to come to Bozeman, but they said they made record time. So, I mean, every step of the way, even after being married, even after having kids, I need people that believe in me and support me. So I just want to end with thank you so much, Weber State. I know as I raced post-collegiately, it got a lot harder because I didn't have a Beth booking my flights. I didn't have her making my itinerary. I didn't have Coach basically holding my hand to get me to the places I needed to be. It takes a whole support team, and I am so grateful to be a part of Weber State forever and ever. Great, great, great. Thank you.
How about one more hand for Amber? Congratulations to Amber. Well, and as I said, she's a member of she was named to the top 25 greatest female athletes in Big Sky Conference history, which is an amazing accomplishment. But not only do we have one of those tonight, we have two of them tonight, as our next one was also named to that list as one of the top 25 greatest athletes in Big Sky history. It's Hayley McCoy. So congratulations to Hayley. Hayley was a standout for the Wildcat soccer team from 2005 to 2008. Under head coach Tim Crompton. We should give him credit for that too, yes. She also was part of one of the greatest wins in Weber State history when the Wildcats beat BYU in the NCAA championship in a penalty kick, and Hayley scored one of those goals. And she was a Big Sky MVP, won the Golden Boot Award, and was a Scholar All-American as well, and named the Female Athlete of the Year as a senior at Weber State. So my pleasure to introduce the newest member of the Weber State Athletics Hall of Fame, Hayley McCoy.
All right. Adjust this a little bit. Thank you so much for the honor, and that was a great speech. Tough to follow that one, Amber, but I'll try. So when I was being recruited, I had decided on Weber, and I had to call up one of the coaches. I called up one of the D3 coaches that had been talking to me, or I'd been talking to, and to tell him politely that I decided to go in a different direction. And his response was, "You're making a mistake. You could come here and be a star, or you can go to a D1 school and be just another player." And so obviously I've held that in a little resentment in the years, and that's the kind of comment that tends to fire me up instead of motivate me to go there. And it makes getting an award like this all the sweeter. Revenge. So again, thank you so much for the honor. I really appreciate being able to share this stage with other, standout Weber athletes and get an award that amazing athletes before me have received as well. And when Tim called me a few weeks ago to let me know that I was getting this award, it started me thinking back on my career and some of the accolades that I've received, or why I'd be getting it. And it made me realize, maybe more than I had before, how much I owed a lot of my successes to particularly to the 2005 team that I played on. Coming into play on a team that was so dominating and just a roster top to bottom that was just stellar athletes to get to play with, and particularly playing behind Rochelle Hoover, who is a fellow Hall of Famer as well, definitely set me up to have a successful career. And I'm aware of that and grateful for the players that I got to play with. One of which, Shelley Goff, is here tonight, and I appreciate her coming. So it's also hard. I think it's hard to start a career on a success like that as well, though, because kind of take it for granted. I'm sure that I took it for granted in a way that I know the seniors that year didn't. And while we were always good, we were always competitive, we made it to the Big Sky tournament every year, we never made it to the big dance again, which I don't think, I'll backstep a little bit and say that is the team that made it to the NCAA tournament and went to the second round, beating BYU. So we never made it back to the NCAA tournament, although we came painfully close my senior year, winning conference, and then losing on a goal late in the game in the Big Sky tournament championship. So, but really, it also makes you realize that it's the failures that make the successes all that much better. And I think over time, over time, I appreciated that 2005 team more and more, being, we were able to accomplish something that was not easy to replicate. And that just becomes more obvious with time. I also just feel incredibly lucky to have been able to play under the coaching staff that we had. Tim Crompton, Megan Tennell, Tommy Fudavahani. Still got it. They created, a coach absolutely can just make or break a career. The personality that you play under, they can either make it fun to show up or they can make it not. And we had such a great environment fostered by the coaching staff. Not only we worked incredibly hard, but it still was fun. Like I enjoyed almost every minute of it. I had wanted to come to practice every day, except maybe Hell Week, which was the week we showed up in August, usually before most of the students get there, and we have 3-a-days for a week. A lot of it just running hills, and Tim might have made us cry once or twice as well. I even look back on that and smile, though. That was still a fun memory, even the crying. But I wanted to come to practice. Oh, spring. That was the other thing I was gonna say. I didn't love spring training, 6 a.m. weights, and going to the indoor center and just running around that little track and not getting to play games. But it was worth it come fall. So yeah, the coaching staff and Tim and the coaching staff had an incredible amount of faith in me. I just particularly in the game, I can always remember him. If there was a corner kick, I'd just hear him just yell, "Hayley, head it out." That was my job. And also his daughter was like a kid at the time, Chansey. Now she's, a legend in her own right, having broken a lot of my records here, I think. But he would tell me, "You're Chansey's favorite player." And it's amazing the pressure that would come with not wanting to disappoint a little fan. But the point is, when you're surrounded by people that believe in you, like the coaching staff and teammates, it's a lot easier to believe in yourself and to see greatness in yourself as well. I can remember after a big loss, I might have been my last game, and we're in the locker room, and I'm devastated, obviously. And Tim, in classic Tim fashion, goes, "Yeah, but man, sun's still gonna come up tomorrow." I'm sure he doesn't remember that, but that has always stuck with me. That has always stuck with me, and he was right. It did, and it does. And winning was obviously important. It was important to us, and it certainly was important to him, the coach. But he still managed to keep a perspective and hold on to the bigger picture through things, tough times. So after Weber, I love soccer still, and we all go through different identities in our life, but that first identity, I would consider being a soccer player one of my first major identities. It just tends to stick with you as a core of who you are. And I still played soccer every chance that I got. Went to grad school and I played intramurals. I'd play indoor leagues, outdoor leagues, futsal leagues. I'd be on the list of any team that played who needed an extra player, so I got a lot of games that way too. And pickup games as well. To the point where my parents would say, "Are you actually going to any classes?" I promise I did. I did both. But finally, a few years ago, I got sidelined by a major knee injury. Tore my ACL, meniscus, playing rec league. Probably not warming up properly or stretching, things like that. But it did a couple things. First, it just made me thankful that I had a relatively healthy career. There's a lot of players that don't get to finish their career or even get hurt in high school and just never have a career that they otherwise would have. But the second thing is it also made me realize how strongly I held on to being a soccer player as, a core to who I am, and it can really rock you to kind of lose that sense. I'm still working on getting back to it though. Two knee surgeries later. But it all makes the Weber memories and my time here all the more special. There's a special place in my heart for Ogden, for the university, for the people that I was here with, teammates, coaches, and heck, I went to school here too, so the professors as well. But to me, Weber it's synonymous with me leaving home for the first time, living on my own for the first time, that time of major self-discovery and, finding your identity. So it's always going to be just part of that core of who I am, just like being a soccer player is. And it's always going to feel like, community here. I cherish memories on and off the field, and I hold on to the lessons I've learned on and off the field from and with teammates and coaches alike. Like work ethic, dependability, leadership, teamwork, all those things I learned here and learned through sport in general as well. And of course, I can't go through it all without thanking my family and my parents. My sister and her family is here tonight from Washington, and my parents are here from Washington. And, talk about from a beginning to an end of a career, people who put time, money, energy into my dreams, and me, are obviously a huge reason why I'm standing here today is thanking them, or thanks to them. And my parents, even though it was a long ways, 8-hour drive-ish, and I'm so thankful they made so many games. They did make, especially my senior year, they were able to make a lot of my games. But they were always on board with coming here, even with the distance like that. I believe my dad might. So I had decided to come to Weber, and I think I'd verbally committed, maybe not signed yet. And I don't know. We're just sitting around the house, and out of the blue, my dad goes, "Yeah, I'm happy with our decision." I look at him and go, "You're happy with our decision? Okay, well, that's great." But in reality, it really was a good decision, and we've never looked back. We've always been, I came to the right place. I had, the right career that I did, and it was the best choice for me and the best decision I've made. So also, when Tim told me to speak, I thought, how am I going to speak for 5 minutes? And then once I started, thinking about what I wanted to say, I was like, I could probably speak for an hour. But no, I don't think everybody else would want to sit for that. So I have just one last anecdote that I think you might enjoy. I have a confession. I live in Grizz country now, just south of Missoula. I'm a practicing eye doctor there, and I had a patient a few months ago, a little 9-year-old boy, and I walk in the room and just Weber State hat, got this worn out Weber State hat on this little 9-year-old kid. And I'm not used to seeing Weber gear outside of Utah, except on my parents. Still. But I'm, how do I say this? Are you from Utah? Did you go to Weber? And the mom's like, no, we took him to a football game a few years back, and Weber beat Montana, and he's been a huge Weber fan ever since. Even had a Weber State themed birthday party last year. So you never know where a future Weber athlete is going to crop up, even in Grizz country, and I'm raising one right now. Little 8-month-old Maeve back there. Oh, I was going to thank again. Thank you for the award. It's just a huge honor to get it and to be invited back here to speak. And just, again, thanks to Tim Crompton, to Megan, to my parents, to Elise, my family, my partner Dane, being willing to come and bring the little one. And I met him after I blew out my knee, so this is finally proof that I really did play soccer. But again, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time and allowing me to speak today.
Congratulations, Hayley. Our next nominee is Barry Nissenbaum. And Barry he's a native of South Africa. He played on the Weber State tennis team from 1980 to 1983. He was a standout player there, a Big Sky MVP, a 5-time conference champion, and he also competed at the NCAA championships and helped the Wildcats win 2 Big Sky titles under those days of Keith Cox. Had a strong tennis program. He won the #1 singles title twice in the Big Sky, and he also won the Gold Watch Award as the top athlete of the year. Barry's, as I said, a native of South Africa, but for the last 38 years, he's lived in Australia. He lives in Melbourne, Australia. And as you can imagine, it's a little hard to get from Australia to here, especially right now. So unfortunately, Barry couldn't be here, but I know he's going to be watching. We're going to send him a video of this. But just a few days ago, I had the chance to visit with him on video. So we're now going to hear a presentation by video of Barry Nissenbaum, a new member of the Hall of Fame.
Thanks very much, Paul. Guys, I just want to thank everybody in the athletic department and Paul, and especially Craig Bell, who's been pushing this for a number of years now, even though I kept telling him that there's more important things in life at the moment with COVID and the whole world in turmoil. And I just wanted to, I'm humbled by the whole nod on getting into the Hall of Fame. I know Kevin Kempen, my first-year doubles partner, he was also inducted, and Eric Sturmer, who played behind me in the 3rd or 4th year, and I toured with him in the satellite circuits in 82, 83. But basically, it is a humble experience, and it's humble from so far away in Australia, where I've been residing for the last 38 years. I can't believe it's that long. I'm showing my age for it. We wish we could be there. My wife was still wanting to get on a plane and come and join you guys. I told her it's very cold out there with the ice on the roads, and she still was happy to bring her ski stuff and all that stuff. But it was been just too difficult with the timing, and I've also got old folks that I've got setting up in the aged care facility, so it was just bad timing. But I won't dwell on that. What I'll dwell on is a bit of all the good times arriving in Utah, where Harry James met me, and then he took me up to Weber State at Ogden, Utah. And then there I met, Peter Marcus and Kevin Kempen and the late Coach Cox got to know all the guys, and straight away one felt at home. And that first year was great competition, and I hope I pushed Peter and Kevin a lot, because coach said he has to put them at 1 and 2 because they're seniors, and he couldn't put me at 1 and 2. So I had to take that on the chin. And then we landed up winning the Big Sky Conference that year. And Peter and Kevin won their singles. I won the singles. Kevin and myself won the doubles at number 1. So it was a great first year success, which was really hard to follow in the next year. And that's why we came down with a bit of a crash. And then third year, managed to do well in the singles, landed up going to the NCAAs, which was a great honor, with Jeff Robbins there, and also Greg Holmes was also involved there, who landed up being All-American, actually won the NCAAs. Greg Holmes from University of Utah, I think in the last year, in 83, or even 84, I think he could have won it. But I'm very humbled. I've got a bit of paraphernalia here that I've kept over the years. Some of the medals and mementos are falling apart, but it's always held close to my heart, my experience in Weber State. And as Brad Larsen just mentioned before, in our last year, we actually got rained out, and we had to take the whole Big Sky Conference indoors and play short sets, which put a lot of pressure on a lot of the players. But we romped in, and I think we won every single event, including all 6 singles, 3 doubles, and even the main title. I know the format is a lot different in today's college tennis, and it's a lot shorter, and they don't play as many events and as many, there's not as much competition in the doubles and singles, and it's all short anyway. But we had a great time at Weber State University. Now it's a university. Back in my day, it was a college. So you guys have done well to get to university status. And I've even got my degree sitting there that my wife framed for me. I never had it framed, and then she framed it for me. And that started my basis going into business, where I was involved in an ice cream business. But then I landed up recognizing my American degree by doing a few extra subjects in Australia. And then I did a CPA, and I used that in business and training on financial diagnostics later in life. But I'm rambling on a bit. But I just wanted to say, and then in 2010, we did do a reunion where we came back. I brought my wife, Sue, back to the States, and we had a reunion, which was fantastic. I hadn't seen, and I've sent, Paul, I've sent you a couple of those pictures of we're all in the same shot as we did in 1979 and in 1983. The same guys were there at the reunion except for Eric. And we were sitting in the same positions as we were back in 79. And the only difference was that some of us couldn't get off the floor once we sat down, because the body's taken its toll. And but we still all had a good smile, and it was good times. And the late Coach Cox's wife, Connie, was there. And it was great to see all familiar faces. Even Kevin Kempen's father, Ron, came to a couple of the reunion events and dinners. But it was good to meet them. So I'll just give a little shout to Peter Marcus, Kevin Kempen, Kay Barney, Kevin Eastley, my roommate in the first year, who I've caught up with a few times going back to America, in San Francisco, where he lives. And he came to Utah with us. And there's Matt Hyandola, who stayed in tennis. A lot of the guys stayed in tennis. Myself, when I came back to Australia, I landed up coaching quite a bit privately. I even coached the current treasurer of Australia when he was a little boy. So he's done well more in politics, and I didn't teach him anything about politics, but more about tennis. And he landed up doing quite well. And obviously Craig Bell, who was a teammate of ours in the last few years, and a great friend. And he's been out to the Australian Open quite a few times, and he stayed with us, and I've taken him down the coast. The invitation stands to all my friends in Weber State College, expatriates, all ex-players, all that. You come down here and you'll be treated very well. I'll even take you to Kooyong for lunch, which is the home of the Australian Open back in the day. Now it's at Rod Laver Arena, which is just 20 minutes down the road, yeah. But in a nutshell, thank you very much. I'm very humbled by this experience. I'll wear my Hall of Fame ring when it arrives with pride. And that's about all. You guys have a great time. And also the non-tennis players like Bill Tantello and old Jeff Hunter, who was a roommate of ours, and they were all involved with us with the tennis team. I've caught up with them as well in the last few years in America. So it's all been a hell of a lot of fun when I do make my way out there. And a pity we couldn't do this in 2010 when all of this was happening. But I will be coming back one day when travel opens up, and hopefully I can see all of you soon and meet you face to face, Paul, even though we are face to face at the moment. But thank you very much for all that. Thank you.
Well, Barry, and we know you'll watch this, so we'll send you a copy of this. Sure, great to hear from you. And it sounds like we all better make a trip to Australia, I guess, right? We can hang out with Barry down there. That sounds great. Congratulations to Barry, a standout tennis player at Weber State. Our next inductee is Roberto Saguerra. Roberto, also an international Wildcat, came from Mexico, and he was a member of the Wildcat men's track and field teams and cross-country teams from 1977 to 1980 under head coach Chick Hislop. He came with Javier, who's here as well, and also in the Hall of Fame, we should mention too. Norberto won 6 Big Sky titles, and he also did something that only 2 Wildcats have ever done. He won the same event all 4 years that he competed that event in outdoor track, which is really impressive. He won the 6 miles as a freshman, then the event was changed to the 10,000 meters, and he won that the next 3 years. So really, really impressive, something that only been done 7 times in the history of the Big Sky. So let's now hear from the newest member of the Weber State Athletics Hall of Fame, Roberto Saguerra.
My daughter said, "You're going to be short." Maybe you're right. But my legs were short too, but I move fast. How, Coach? I love Coach Hislop. And, well, like you guys hear, I came from Mexico City, and I was in the Olympic Committee training when one of my friends, Jorge Ruiz, went in Christmas to well, he was, went to visit his family. And then he went for a workout with us in the mountains. And he told one of the guys, "Hey, do you want to run for Weber State? They want to give you a scholarship." And he said, "No." So that was a chance that I heard, and I took that chance. I said, "Hey, Jorge, I want to go." I said, "Okay, give me your times. Let me talk to Coach Hislop." So he told my times. He said, "Okay, yeah, he can come." So it was really interesting coming over here. When we came in the airplane, I met Javier Chavez over there the first time, and then we got at the Salt Lake City, and I started to see the snow, the beautiful white snow. I said, "Oh my God, I always freeze in Mexico, and in here I'm gonna be worse." But I did it, and it wasn't easy. You know, it was kind of cold, but I was training. I had a hard time sometimes on the training. Cross country was kind of tough. Sometimes I have they call it horse pain, but I managed doing it better. And well, I gotta thanks Coach Hislop and all his family for all the support in here, and all you guys in here, because you guys make a family for me. I didn't think, when a team talked to me on the phone, that I just want to be one of the Hall of Fame. I said, "What? Oh, yeah. I don't like to be standing in here, So I came over here, and it is nice to meet again my friends from the team. Lynn Strong, Javier, and Mark. Yeah, and I'm missing Rex Rex Hanjon. I used to call him Rex Hanjon. And another, we always support each other. And so I came here because I didn't want to depend from my family on supporting me on school. So I said, I want to go to Weber State and take that chance. So I started to do training, and it was kind of tough, but I wasn't used to go every week for the meets. And I didn't win all the time. And I told coach, give me a chance for the championship, see what happened. So I won the championship, and I have my paper in here to read, and I forgot. Anyway, thanks for all my friends that they are here supporting me. There is my friend, I forgot his name, David Delgado. He comes from BYU. And he's my friend Roselis, that she used to be on BYU too. So and my friend Tony and his wife, Margaret, they used to cut my hair so I can run faster. And there is Lynn Strong. One time we went to where is Paul Pilkington? Right there. Right there is Paul Pilkington. Also Paul Pilkington, I remember we went to a marathon and said, he's in good shape. But we did okay. I won. I won. So, I don't know. I want to say a lot like all of them, but I just so happy to be in here for Weber State. And now it's awesome that it's a university, And I love being here in Ogden because after my workouts that I used to do around the mountains, Ben Lomond Peak, and then, what I gotta say, Norberto? And it is amazing how this town, it's nice for me. I love to go in the mountains and all the friends around. Thank you for all your support.
Congratulations, Roberto. Very well deserved. That's a neat honor. Well, now as part of the Hall of Fame and receiving the Reed K. Swenson Distinguished Service Award is Brad Larsen. Now, those of you that don't know Brad, I'm not sure how to best describe him, but there's no one quite like Brad, that's for sure. But one thing for sure, I sure do know that he loves Weber State and he loves the Wildcats. He was the sports information director and then the assistant AD for media relations at Weber State for over 31 years. From 1979 to 2011, he helped promote Wildcat athletics with the local and national media, and he attended nearly every football game and almost every men's basketball game during that time. Earlier this week, we were kind of counting up how many games he was a part of over those years and helped promote Wildcat athletics. He also attended many, many other events and sports as well. He could often be heard yelling at his favorite people, the ones that wear stripes on the field and the court. Or you might not also see him because sometimes he'd be pacing when it's a close game. But he definitely loved his Wildcats, that's for sure. And he also has an amazing recollection of games and players and moments in Weber State history. Really a Weber State historian. It's also personal for me because I know I wouldn't be here without him. And so I'm grateful for him. He took a chance on me a long time ago, and I've been lucky enough to learn from him and play a lot of golf with him as well. And he truly is a definite Wildcat. And I'm going to just introduce him with one thing that one of his good friends and colleagues in the Big Sky at another school, Montana State, Bill Lambert, he said. He summed it up pretty well. He said, Larson is perhaps the loudest, funniest, purplest, I didn't know that was a word, but purplest, most honest, amazing guy, and it's been a privilege to work with him. He is so deserving of this honor. Very few people are as wrapped up into the identity of a school as Lars is with Weber State. I think that sums it up very well. The newest member of the Weber State Athletics Hall of Fame, Brad Larsen.
Thank you. Mr. Max Finest. Somebody said I probably don't need the mic, so I'll just put it right there. Are you kidding me? That side gets it. Before I want to go on, I want to congratulate those being inducted, Hayley and Amber and Norberto and Barry. I was here for all their careers. You know, Hayley, that victory at BYU, is great because what did we figure out, Paul? I think we've only won one women's basketball game in Provo and one soccer game, and that's it. And so that was a nice win, and Tim Crompton was a part of that. I'd like to thank the committee members. I've been on this committee since it started in 1989. I've only missed about 3 meetings. One of them was last summer when I was in California, and Paul Gurrow texted me who's going to go in the Hall of Fame, and they had the 4, Hayley and Amber and Barry and Roberto. And I texted back, great, no problem. So the whole fall, unbeknownst to me, they decided to give me this award at that meeting. And I tell you what, these people ought to work for the CIA because I had no idea until about 3 weeks into January. And Tim Crompton, he's a funny guy. He kept calling me Hall of Famer all fall, and I looked at him like, I don't think so. But anyway, thanks for keeping that a secret. That it kind of went over my head. Just a bit about Reed K. Swenson, in case you don't know who Reed is. He was a longtime athletic director at Weber State. He was one of the founders of the National Junior College Athletic Association. He was the president of that association for 12 years and was kind of the one that pioneered Weber State into becoming a 4-year school back in the late 50s and early 60s. So I'm very honored to be associated with him. How I got here is a long story. I'm not going to belabor the fact, but not too many people in their lives really know what they're going to be when they go into college or in high school. But I did. My good friend Al Lewis, who is here tonight, and I lived one house apart, and in between us was a man named Reed Andresen, who was the radio announcer for Utah State back in the day. If you know history, he was the last one that did a radio interview with Wayne Estes the night before he was tragically killed. But Reed used to bring back game programs and press guides from wherever he'd been out of the country, and he'd give it to Al and I, and I go, wow, this is cool. I go, who does these things? And he says, well, it's a guy named the Sports Information Director. They call him the SID. And I said, well, wow, that's what I want to do. So, throughout my career in junior high and high school, I took a lot of writing classes and got back off my mission and went to Utah State and worked for a man named Craig Hislop. My mentor, he couldn't be here tonight. He's doing a high school game, but I worked for Craig for 4 years. Good man. He taught me a lot of things, let me go and do my thing, and I spent 4 years there. Graduated. When I graduated, my wife was expecting my son. I didn't have a job. I worked for Tupperware. I worked for the ticket office, but all I did was play Yahtzee all day. Finally got an interview at Stanford University, and I was going to go out there and really wanted the job, but Gary Cavalli told me, he says, I really want you, but from what I'm going to pay you, and with the kid coming and wife, there's no way you're going to be able to live here in the Bay Area. You'll have to live like 40 miles away. So I thought, well, that's probably not a good idea. So my next interview was at Montana, Hayley speaking of the Grizz, and I made the final two. Unfortunately, I was two. But come to find out, the guy who beat me was Dave Guffey, who went on to be the SID there for 38 years and became one of my best friends. So I'm without a job, and I find out about this job at the University of Northern Iowa, back in Cedar Falls, Iowa. So I applied for the job. I'd been the wrestling SID at Utah State, did all the wrestling. As you know, Iowa's a big wrestling state. So I had a nice in there with Bob Carlson, the former wrestling coach at Utah State, who used to go head-to-head with Coach Hyssop in a lot of matches. And I got the job. So I packed up my wife's 1964 and a half Mustang and drove across the plains at about 20 below zero weather. Got the flu in Cheyenne, had to stay there for 2 days. Finally made it to Cedar Falls, and it was 3 months later. I didn't know I lived on a dirt road. There was so much snow and cold. But that summer I came back and I found out the Weber State job was open. So we came back to trade in that 64 Mustang for another car, and I had an opportunity to talk with Gary Crompton, who was the athletic director then. And so we chatted, and I said, yeah, I'm interested. I says, I know I've only been in Northern Iowa for 6 months, but you know, my wife really wants to come back to Utah. It was really cold there, and the tornado warnings every other day didn't suit her very well either. So anyway, finally Gary Crompton called me in September and said, well, I got some good news and bad news. The bad news is that you were our third choice, but we're going to take you anyway. And he says, and we'll just put you at the salary that John Peterson, who was the SID before, was making, and we'll pay your way out. And I just about fainted. I said, I'm there. So I came in the middle of October 1979. No SID. There's no press guide had been made. And so I got my baptism really quick. And we had a great year that year. Peggy Escurier, back there in the corner there, my secretary, and Nan Holyoke, who's a member of this Hall of Fame, who unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight. She's not doing too well, but we got together and got everything done. It's kind of odd that my first game, basketball game at Weber State, was at Utah State. Now you got to remember, this is when Weber State had Mark Matos and David Johnson and Neil McCarthy and all that. And I just spent the last 3 years cursing them and hating them. And so now I got to promote them. And I told Mark Matos that. I said, you know, I really didn't like you that much, so don't get on my bad side. But that was a great year. As you might remember, we went 26-3. We hosted the NCAA tournament, first time ever. A lot of people don't realize, though, that we had the Big Sky tournament the week before, so I had back-to-back tournaments that I had to take care of. But it was a great experience for me and kind of started me on our way. Before I go any further, I just want to tell you, you know, newspapers don't lie. We're all in this, that people say, well, the media, they're lying, they're fake news. Well, and the Standard Examiner is always right, Randy, right? Never wrong. It says 5 athletes joined the field. So I'm finally vindicated. I actually wasn't too bad of an athlete, although my sister who's over there got more athletic ability than I did. But anyway, I just want to throw that in. Hazards of the job. A lot of hazards in the job of being an SID. Suffered a broken jaw, tore my Achilles tendon, tore my rotator cuff, had my gallbladder out. But probably the biggest one of all was getting the rototiller, putting my leg on the hillside when Dave Arsladian decided to re-landscape the stadium on the north end. So we were all out there cleaning the hillside up, and I got rototiller duty, and we were just about done, and the next thing I knew, I was on the ground with my face in the dirt and a rototiller stuck in my leg. And they got the ambulances there, and they said, let's just put him and the rototiller in the ambulance and take him to the hospital. And Dave Arsladian says, I don't think so. So they rolled me over, and I looked like one of those coal miners, when they came out of the mine. I had dust from head to foot, and that's how they took me to the hospital. And fortunately, it didn't do too much damage, but while I was there, the guy next to me died of a heart attack, so I counted myself lucky. I didn't miss too many games. Really didn't miss any games sick. I was a sickly kid, and as my sister always reminds me. I thought penicillin was part of the 4 food groups when I was little, and got a lot of it. And my doctor's name is Dr. Payne, and it wasn't until I was 10 years old I realized it was P-A-Y-N-E instead of P-A-I-N. So my kids all know that I've gone through a lot of sickness in my time. People ask me about my best memories in my 31 years, and obviously there's quite a few of them. Jamie Martin winning the Walter Payton Trophy, having to get the opportunity to go back to New York City. And then a few years later, Scott Shields. They didn't know what to do with Scott. He was such a good, he was a defensive player, kicker, and punter that they created a new category for him. And we got to go back there, Jerry Gray, Bill, and I, and be with Scott. Obviously, the 2 tournament wins over Michigan State and North Carolina, stand out. I mean, that was, I remember we were down in Tallahassee, and Jeff Simon, who's my brother-in-law now, who was the Standard Examiner sports writer back then, we just looked at each other and, what do we do now? We only brought a change of clothes for that day. We didn't have anything to wear Friday and Saturday. And I remember after we beat Michigan State, that we were there. I was there for 4 hours, hauling Rhonda Beglin around to every media outlet we could find. Another treat for me was I had the opportunity to work in the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. I was the assistant venue press chief for gymnastics and tennis, and you might remember that was the Mary Lou Retton, Peter Vidmar crew that was in that. It was the first time China was in the Olympics, so those were good memories. Have good memories of things not so at Weber State. We used to have a big track meet, high school track meet, with boys and girls. And the first year they had it was it wasn't the first year. My first year was in 1980. They had this track meet, and the chick said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I don't want to do anything." She says, "Yeah, high school track's not my, it's not my part of my deal." About an hour later, Gary Cromden came in my office, and this is how I found out how powerful Chick really is. He says, "You'll be doing the bullpen." And I did the bullpen, right, Chick? Yeah. Had an opportunity to see Coach Hyssop use his wrestling moves in action against the coach. I won't get into that. That was too much. Never missed a home football game in my 31 years. Missed just 3 home basketball games. Only missed 7 road football games. And I had 119 games in the old press box. And if you remember, any of you remember the old press box? It had no elevator. And we had to haul cameras and ditto machines and everything up those flights of stairs. About 70 in total to get to the very top. I was so glad when that new one was built. Now, to kind of wrap up here, I want to thank a lot of people. 31 and a half years, you have a lot of people that play in your life. Number one are my friends, Al Lewis, Mike Parson, who I grew up with in Logan, are here tonight. And I know this is going to be on YouTube, so I have to mention my buddy Mike Larson, who lives up in Alaska, who was my best man at my wedding. I grew up with some great friends, and we all were in athletics together, and still through the years, we talk a lot of athletics and good friends. Thanks for coming, guys. Good friends. Athletic administration, I went through a lot of coaches, 9 athletic directors. I want to mention Dean Hurst, though, when I first got there, Dean gave me a lot of good advice. And you all know Dean. He was as good as they come. And I just want to make sure I mention him. Great coaches. Coach Hyssop is one. Coach Blaisdell's here. Is there any other Coach Cravens? Am I missing one? Yeah. Coach Marcel. I won't tell the story, Ma. See? We'll save that one for later. It's not bad. It's just kind of weird. I want to thank my staff, Peggy and Nan Holyoke. You know, we went through a lot of things together. I was kind of cocky when I first got here, right, Peggy? Yeah. I know that would surprise everyone, but I thought I knew it all and found out I didn't, and they helped me. I can't go without mentioning my stats crew, and I don't think any of them are here, but boy, I had a great stats crew, both football and basketball, that were with me all, you know, just good people. I'd be amiss if I tried to start naming them all, but they were good. My fellow SIDs, you know, in the Big Sky, we had a great camaraderie during most of my years there, and it's kind of lost today. You know, it's kind of gotten a little more sterile. There's not as much interaction anymore because of social media and all that, but I'm grateful for them. For my media friends, thank you. Randy Hollis is here tonight, Jim Burton, Carl Arkey, back in the back there, voice of the Wildcats. You know, the SID has a fine line between the media and the coaches and the administration. You know, you work for the school, but the media people, you got to keep them happy too. But I had a great staff to work with. It's in the Standard, and you know, and from the Tribune and Deseret News, Weber State was always the starting line for most of those writers. You know, people like Lee Benson and Kirk Cragthorpe, and a lot of those people kind of cut their teeth, you know, in their careers covering Weber State. So I got to know a lot of them. And very privileged to know the John Moonies and Paul James and Bill Marcroffts of the world. You know, good men all, and help me, and I appreciate them. Finally, my family. They're all right here. You know, they used to, my first wife, Pauline, you know, they were the press box hosts. And most of you never went in that old press box, but it was awful. So there was one drink machine, so they had to pour drinks and make sure they got their food, got their drinks. Same thing in basketball, they served as hosts, and so they kind of grew up around it. And all three of my kids, you know, when they grew up going through school, they'd have that session with the teacher, goes, "What does your dad do?" And my kids would go, "Well, I don't know what he does, but he gets to watch Weber State basketball games for free." And so that was the standard answer. But you know, thanks to my kids, my granddaughters, I got 5 wonderful granddaughters. My cousin Gary Lee here back there, he's here tonight. Thank for him. He's my only cousin left on my mom's side. And my sister, who's married to Jeff, thank them for coming. There's a few of them who aren't here. My mother and father-in-law, from my first mother and father-in-law and my second mother-in-law, they would have thought this was pretty cool. My dad, who was killed in a car wreck, 2009. He always thought it was cool what I did. My buddy Jeff Smith, I hope he's here. But we had lunch 8 days a week. And sometimes for about 4 or 5 hours. Yeah, we kept Javier in business. We kept Karen's in business. We kept Cedars in business. But Smitty became a great friend. And finally, many of you knew my wife, Pauline. Most of you knew her as the Seas Candy Lady down at the mall, where she worked. But you know, when we got married, I told her what I was going to do, and she said, okay. But I don't think she realized how much I was going to be gone. You know, for you young people back in the day, we didn't have computers to do stats with. We had to do everything by hand, so it would take me 5 hours every Sunday just to do the basketball stats. So, but she was my rock. passed away from cancer in 2011. She gave me one good piece of advice, though. She said, make sure you marry Christy. And my wife, Christy, over here now. That's a story in itself. The Reader's Digest version is we went on a mission together. We were in the same mission field. I came back, I dated her. I went and picked her up in California, brought her back to Provo, and then never called her again. Stayed in touch, but 2 weeks before my wife passed, she told me, she says, I think you need to marry Christy, so I did. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is me. I'm thankful for all you being here. I love Weber State. Alan Farron back there is one of the best. He doesn't get a lot of credit, but he is really good at what he does. Thank you, Kerry. I know your hard work. Coach Graybell, he may have left early, but grateful for his association with him. And with that, I'll have Paul Guru say the closing. No. I'm sorry, Paul. But thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure. It was a great ride. I'm thankful for my association for everybody here. Tom Shirtliff, Joe Bass, my road trip partners. Joe Bass and I about got killed one night in Oklahoma City, a guy shooting guns at us. Truth. Joel came and jumped in the car, we took off, and the gas thing was still in the car, and I yanked it out. We called back, and the lady said, you need to come back and pay for the gas, and Joel goes, hell no. Anyway, thank you very much.
That's why we put Brad last, right? Let's give a big round of applause for these 5 wonderful inductees. You should all be very proud for your legacy that will live forever at Weber State. It's an important thing that you'll be remembered for, and I know this was an important part of your lives. So congratulations once again. And also, this class will be honored tomorrow at the men's basketball game at halftime of the basketball game that starts at 6 o'clock at the D-Event Center. So we hope to see you all there as well. I'm now going to have Curtis Breitweiser, who's the chairman of the Hall of Fame committee, will present the plaques, and then after that, we'll turn it back over to Tim Crompton for some closing remarks.
Brad Larsen headline. Yeah. I'll keep my remarks very short and just simply say, again, it's an honor to be a part of the Hall of Fame every year that we pick these special people. Some of you have waited many, many years probably, while others are probably surprised to be in as soon as you can be in. But one thing we do, we go through all the records and we get a hold of coaches and past staff and we say, who are the best? And we come up with them, don't we? So at this time, I'd like to have all the inductees come on up, Amber and Hayley and Brad and Roberta. And I'm sorry you're not going to be with us here, Barry, but in spirit, just come on up behind me and I'm going to present each of you your plaques. And again, I hope you get up to the D-Event Center and see what we're doing in the South Concourse there with the plaques and stuff. And is this all of them? Okay, yes, not Barry, right? So let me first present Amber Henry. Congratulations. Hayley McCoy. Brad Larsen. Your next position. You got the cameras going? Yeah, I guess we do. Okay. I'm going to get a picture.
after? Okay.
It's kind of powerful.
All right.
Thank you. And I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Once again, congratulations. A few of those going around, no doubt about it. Thank you, Curtis. I would like to have our president, Brad Larsen, come up and also thank him and his wife, Camille, for coming, because I know, as you can imagine, they have a lot of things they could go to and do go to. So thank you very much.
So thanks, Tim. Tim's really good at letting me not follow protocol, but I thought it was important, not just on behalf of the athletics department, but on behalf of all of Weber State University, to acknowledge the great accomplishments of these 5 individuals tonight. They truly are amazing. They truly do represent all of the good that we stand for at Weber State, and through athletics, it shines a light on everything good that happens. And so thank you so much for your dedication and your excellence, and for sharing with us the importance of the support that the family, the coaches, and friends and colleagues, teammates, all of your stories were just very inspiring, and it's great to have so many of those supporters with us this evening. So Tim, thank you for letting me share that, because it's important. You bring our whole university together, and you make us better. So thank you very much.